to oppose him politically. In turn, Mussolini signed the Concordat with the Vatican in 1929, making Roman Catholicism the sole religion of Italy. The Vatican received 750 million lire in cash and 1 billion in state bonds. Vatican money helped to start the Nazi Party. And in 1933, the Vatican made a similar concordat with Hitler, resulting in its reception of hundreds of millions of German marks from the Nazi regime during World War II. One could not ask for clearer examples of fornication with the kings of the earth. Christ never joined forces with Caesar, nor did Peter or Paul, but the Roman Catholic Church has continually engaged in illicit relationships with secular rulers right up to the present. The alliance between Reagan and Pope John Paul II, between the CIA and the alleged Vicar of Christ, could only be called spiritual fornication. It violated everything Christ taught regarding his church not being of this world. Former Secretary of State Alexander Haig acknowledged that, quote, the Vatican's information was absolutely better and quicker than ours in every respect, unquote. A Vatican liaison to the White House, Archbishop Pio Laghi, kept reminding American officials, quote, listen to the Holy Father. We have 2,000 years experience in this, unquote. 2,000 years of political intrigue, of which the Vatican is clearly the master. Hardly what Christ had in mind. Former Soviet leader Mikhail Gorbachev has called the Pope, quote, the highest spiritual authority on earth, unquote. Gorbachev summed up the earthly power of the Roman Catholic Church when he declared, quote, Pope John Paul II played a major political role in the collapse of communism in Eastern Europe. The events in Eastern Europe might not have been possible without the presence of this Pope, without the great role which he knew how to play on the world scene, unquote. Such praise could never have been directed at Christ or his apostles, who were martyred by the secular world, a world that the popes have embraced in spiritual fornication and have even dominated. Papal worldly power has been wielded for centuries in fulfillment of another part of John's remarkable vision. In John's day, it was the Rome of the Caesars that ruled the world. After the Caesars lost their power, the popes ruled in their place over even wider territories and often more ruthlessly. Pope Gregory XI's papal bull of 1372 in Cuna Domini claimed papal dominion over the entire Christian world, secular and religious, and excommunicated all who failed to obey the popes and to pay them taxes. That bull was confirmed by subsequent popes, and in 1568, Pope Pius V swore that it was to remain an eternal law. Pope Alexander VI drew a north-south line down the global map of that day, and in the name of Christ, who possessed nothing on this earth but his robe, he gave Africa, India, and Asia to Portugal, and the newly discovered North and South America he gave to Ferdinand and Isabella of Spain, on the condition that the native inhabitants of those lands must be made to join the Roman Catholic Church and pay taxes to the popes. Rome's dominance in Latin America remains to this day, nor is empire building relegated to the past. The Second Vatican Council in Lumen Gentium on November 21, 1964, declared that, quote, the Catholic Church ceaselessly and efficaciously seeks for the return of all humanity in all its goods under Christ, unquote, meaning, of course, under the popes, Christ's alleged vicars. Pope Alexander II decreed that Harold, the lawful king of England, was a usurper. He excommunicated him and his followers and gave the throne to William, Duke of Normandy. With the Pope's blessing, William the Conqueror killed Harold in battle, took over England, and was crowned in London on Christmas Day in 1066. He accepted the crown of England, quote, in the name of the Holy See of Rome, unquote. Hundreds of other examples could be given. There can be no doubt at all about Catholic Rome's identity as the city known as Babylon, built on 7 hills, which committed spiritual fornication with the kings of the earth, and which reigned over the kings of the earth. No other city even comes close to her in this regard. Not only is Babylon the code name for Rome, but Rome's connections to Babylon go much deeper. Ancient Babylon was built around the ruins of the Tower of Babel, from which its name was derived. That tower, designed to reach heaven, was the headquarters of the first world religion, just as Rome will be for the coming world religion of Antichrist. Furthermore, just as Babel's tower and city united church and state, so the popes wielded both civil and religious authority, and in like manner the woman and the beast she rides will unite the coming world government and world religion. With its attempt to reach heaven by steps of its own making, Babylon was the ultimate works religion. And so it has always been in Roman Catholicism. Salvation is unquestionably by works. Vatican II declares, quote, to gain indulgences, the work prescribed must be done. From the most ancient times in the Church, good works were also offered to God for the salvation of sinners. All men may attain to salvation through faith, baptism, and the observance of the commandments, unquote. Clearly, good works play a key role in earning salvation in Catholicism, as even the average Catholic would testify. The Council of Trent, as reproposed by Vatican II, decreed, quote, if anyone says that the sacraments of the new law are not necessary for salvation, and that without them men obtain from God through faith alone the grace of justification, let him be anathema, unquote.